This is Mongolia, and it's pathetic. All of this is a lifeless husk of a once thriving empire, and even its current flag displays that perfectly. I can't fix the empire part, but I can definitely fix the flag, and I'm gonna do it based off of its history. But before we do that, let us first discuss this current flag. The flag Mongolia uses today was adopted in 1992. It has 3 vertical stripes which go red, blue and red. The blue in the center represents the eternal sky, which is an important symbol in Mongolian culture. The red on both sides stand for strength and progress. On the left stripe, you'll see a golden symbol called the Soyombo, designed by the 17th century monk and scholar Zana Bazar. It's a vertical stack of symbols representing fire, sun and moon, earth, water and the yin-yang balance. Altogether, it represents freedom, independence and the Mongolian people. And if you're interested, here's a more detailed overview of what the symbol means. Just pause here. Also, fun fact, the yin-yang is supposed to look like 2 fishes, because fishes in Mongol mythology never sleep, thus symbolizing that the spirit of the Mongol people never sleeps. Something like that. Great, now that you know the rough meanings and values we're trying to incorporate into the redesign, we can move on to the redesign itself. But there's one thing you need to understand first, which is the history of Mongolia. Our story begins in the early 13th century when Genghis Khan united the nomadic tribes of the Mongolian steppe. Under his leadership, the Mongol Empire exploded across Asia. After his death in 1227, his successors expanded it even further, eventually creating the largest continuous land empire in human history, stretching from Eastern Europe all the way to the coast of the Pacific in China. But this massive empire didn't last forever. After the death of Kublai Khan in 1294, the empire began to fracture into separate khatans, and by 1368, the Mongols were pushed out of China by the new Ming dynasty, marking the collapse of the empire as a unified power. The Mongols retreated north, beginning what's known as the Northern Yuan period. For the next few centuries, Mongolia shifted between unity and fragmentation as competing clans struggled for control. Leaders like Dayan Khan and Altan Khan tried to reunify the nation, and during the 1500s, Mongolia embraced the Tibetan Buddhism, which became a major part of Mongolian culture. But by the early 17th century, internal division led Mongolia vulnerable. The rising Qing dynasty slowly expanded its influence, and by 1635, Mongolia had effectively fallen under Qing control. It stayed this way for almost 300 years. But everything changed in 1911 when the Qing dynasty collapsed. Now Mongolia declared independence and became a theocratic monarchy under the Bog Khan. However, Mongolia was still occupied by the Republic of China because they claim all the territory from the Qing dynasty, including Outer Mongolia, which is what Mongolia is today. But in 1921, the Chinese got kicked out by the Soviet Red Army and its Mongolian allies. Thus in 1924, the Mongolian People's Republic was established, which is the world's second socialist state after the USSR itself. For most of the 20th century, Mongolia was closely tied to the Soviet Union, experiencing industrialization and heavy political control. But in 1990, a peaceful democratic revolution transformed the country, and Mongolia adopted a new constitution in 1992, removed the socialist star from its flag, and became the modern democratic nation we know today. So to summarize, from a world-spinning empire to centuries to foreign rule to a socialist republic and finally democracy, Mongolia's history is one of resilience, re-innovation and culture that has endured for nearly 1,000 years. Right, now that you know sort of what Mongolia went through and what their past flags look like, let's get into the design process. Now the design process started out rough, because I was clueless for like half an hour. I kept looking at the past flags, looking for design concepts I can reincorporate, and I kept looking at the current flag thinking to myself, what was wrong about it? Now that wasn't the problem, I figured those things out pretty quickly. One important thing I wanted to put forward in this redesign is the Soyombo, which the current flag was doing wrong. But how do you do that? Well, that was the problem. I haven't had the slightest clue. Now, I should come clean. I did look at other redesigns, but not to copy, but to 1, see in which direction I could take it, and 2, to see what others did so I wouldn't copy them. I'm gonna be honest, in this redesign, they didn't help me either. So logically, I needed to find another element from the flag history to incorporate. And luckily, I found one. But in order for me to explain how I incorporated that idea, I need to finish the flag. So enjoy this quick time lapse of me designing the flag. Well, are you ready to see the final flag? Of course you are, here it is. Beautiful, isn't it? Now let me walk you through it. Well, starting with the waves, I suppose, which was inspired by the Tibet flag because Tibetan Buddhism is important for Mongolian culture. And remember that other element I had to add? Well, that element was these 3 stripes from the 1911 flag. Can you spot them in the redesign? Yep, they're right here. These 3 red rays, I guess you could call them also, are red for a reason, and the fact that there are 3 of them is also not a coincidence. Anyway, moving on. Because of the 1990 flag, the bottom third of the flag is red, and on top of it is the Soyombo symbol. This is where I had the most troubles with designing because for the life of me I couldn't figure out which color I should make the Soyombo symbol. I even made them the OG colors, aka the colors from the 1911 flag, which I actually thought looked kinda sick, but it was too complicated and it had too many colors. So I made them yellow with a red border, because most of the flags in Mongolia's history have the Soyombo yellow and on a red background. So that's what I did. Anyway, if you remember, the blue stands for the night sky, and if you think about it, the yin-yang is kinda like the sun, and the rays are lighting up the night sky. But that is up to your own interpretations. Anyway, I'm gonna end the episode here. Comment which country you wanna see next for historical redesign. And the next couple of videos are also gonna be just historical redesigns and also fan flags. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you. Goodbye.